Hi, everybody. Welcome to this eCampus News webinar on putting the user at the center of the online proctoring experience, sponsored by PSI. My name is Dennis Pierce, and I'll be moderating the event. I'm the former editor of eCampus News. I'm now a freelance education writer and consultant, and I'm very excited to have you join us for what should be an informative session. Before I introduce our presenters, I'd like to just take a minute to go over some of the features of the platform that we're using. Today's event will be recorded, so you don't have to worry about missing anything. Within a few days of the event, you'll receive an email message that contains a link to the recorded webinar, along with a PDF of the slides. You can submit questions at any time during the presentation by clicking on the purple Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, typing your question into the pop-up box, and hitting submit. We'll save those questions for a Q&A session with our presenters at the end of the webinar. We also have a group chat function that you can launch by clicking on the blue chat button at the bottom of your screen. Feel free to use this feature to chat among yourselves or to contact someone from the eCampus News team if you have a technical question. But please don't use this feature to ask the panelists questions. If you have a question for the speakers, you can use that Q&A box that I had just mentioned. If you find that you're having a hard time reading the text of the slides, you can enlarge the slide portion of your screen by clicking on the box in the upper right-hand corner of the slide window, or you can click on the double arrows for a full screen view of the slide presentation. And finally, we encourage you to join the back channel conversation on Twitter by referring to the Twitter handle @PSI_education and the hashtag ESNwebinar in your tweets. And PSI has made a product brochure available for you to download as well. You can find a link to that brochure in the additional resources box to the left of your screen. So with these housekeeping items out of the way, let's get started with our presentation. While administering exams online gives students flexibility and convenience, is it helping them successfully demonstrate what they know? And is it making the job of educators and administrators more efficient? At the center of these questions is the user experience, which is often the most overlooked aspect of online proctoring. In this webinar, you'll get insights that can help you create the ideal proctoring environment, allowing you to better serve both educators and students. Here's a quick overview of today's agenda. First, you'll learn a little bit more about PSI and its role in online proctoring. Then we'll cover some of the key challenges that cause friction in online testing, followed by strategies that can help you overcome these challenges. You'll also learn about PSI's Bridge platform and how it can support online proctoring more effectively, and we'll end with a Q&A period. Our speakers today are Allison Sands and Mark Masacchio from PSI. Allison is the Product Marketing Director for PSI's Certification, Education, and Licensure business segments. She has a passion for helping customers understand how technology can make a positive impact in their organizations. In Allison's current role, she's responsible for leading positioning, messaging, and strategic go-to-market activities in the Certification, Education, and Licensure portfolio of solutions. Mark is the Senior Director of Sales for PSI Education. For the past 8 years, he's worked with countless educators in higher education and certification organizations to help them with their assessment challenges. With a focus on customer experience, Mark works closely with senior leadership and account management to ensure quality and excellence throughout the customer lifecycle. So at this time, I'm going to turn things over to Allison.
Thanks, Dennis, and thanks to eCampus News for hosting PSI today. I'd like to thank all of the educators, instructional technologists, designers, and administrators, and many others for all that you do and for making time to join our webinar, including quite a few of our customers, so welcome. I'd like to take a minute or two to tell you about PSI, but before I share our official story, I'd like to provide some insights on who PSI is. PSI is a trusted partner to thousands of organizations and institutions around the world and millions of learners and candidates. We are a proud company of dedicated individuals who engage with our end users at some of the most important moments in their academic and professional careers. PSI is the reassuring partner who assures these moments for academic achievement, professional growth, and talent enhancement. Combined with science, technology, and expertise, We help people realize aspirations one thoughtful step at a time. So with that, meet PSI. Your potential is why we do the work we do. So let me tell you a little more about the work we do at PSI. We're a global workforce assessment and management solutions provider to corporations, federal and state government agencies, professional associations, certifying bodies, and leading academic institutions. We offer a comprehensive solutions approach from test development to delivery and results processing, including pre-hire employment selection, managerial assessments, licensing, and certification tests, as well as distance learning testing, license management services, and professional services. A few numbers to share with you for which we're particularly proud. We deliver over the little era there 15 million exams annually, working with over 600 higher education institutions among our global base of 5,000 plus clients. People choose PSI because we're an organization that fuses science, technology, and expertise to deliver best-in-class testing and assessment products and services that are uniquely human first. PSI is truly everywhere. Candidates and students are working and learning. We have a network of brick-and-mortar test centers spanning over 5 continents and over 100 countries. As part of this community of academic leaders, faculty, and administrators, we exist to provide learning experiences that are effective, seamless, and safe. But most of all, we must provide these experiences while maintaining and promoting academic integrity, because without integrity, learners can't reach their potential. And that's why you're here today, to learn how we can provide the best possible online proctoring experience by removing the friction points and replacing them with the ideal blend of technology through a combination of people, processes, and technology. So let's talk about friction. Like anything, there are positive and negative aspects. On the positive side, friction helps us move around without falling down all the time. It also creates heat, helping us light campfires, keeps the brakes of our cars working, and the nuts and bolts that hold it all together. It's an efficient transference of energy. However, this transference of energy can have a downside. It can cause wear and tear on parts, processes, and most importantly, people. Lack of flexibility creates friction in online proctoring. The subtlest of variables can have a big impact on the test-taking experience, and over time, it can impact performance and leave students and others frustrated. So giving students flexibility in assessment is a key part of creating a student-centered proctoring environment. So what are some of these friction points? Well, here's a roundup of some of them as reported by students and educators, and nearly all of them are related to the test-taker journey. And whether it's wait time for gaining entrance to an exam, inconvenience exam time availability, to overreaches in some cases of technology into a student's computer. And while some of these factors may seem like petty annoyances, over time, these friction points generate enough heat in the form of frustration and risk, from anxiety to data privacy concerns. So we did provide some polling, or prepare some polling questions, which if eCampus is ready to do that, we can advance to that and see how some of the frustrations that you've seen listed here are consistent with what you're experiencing in the field. So with that, I think we're ready for poll question 1. So this is a slide, but I believe we're going to push a real polling question through the tool. Okay, so we'll give you a little time there to read some of these answers and then provide what you think. And Dennis, if there's anything I should be doing right now, please let me know.
No, I think we'll just make sure everybody sees the question. So what are your most commonly reported friction points for your online proctoring process from a student point of view? And I see we're getting answers. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, we'll give it another couple of seconds, and then we can move on. And this is very consistent with what we experience, and I'm sure Mark would agree. Okay, I think we can move on to the next polling question. So this question is from a student perspective. So now we're going to move on from the educator, instructor, administrative side and push the next polling question. There we go. See what we know. We've got quite a few faculty and instructors and instructional technology folks, so I'm sure you can relate. Isn't it? Okay. And I think we can probably push the results of the poll now. Okay, again, very consistent with what we've experienced or that's reported for us as well. Okay, great. Well, then this, we just wanted to make sure that we were getting a sanity check on what you're experiencing and help inform some of the conversation that we're going to have in just a little bit. So moving forward. So to be innovative in online proctoring is to understand and delight the modern learner. And you have to understand the modern learner. And that is one that requires, more convenience at times that are convenient. They value collaboration, security, reliability, convenience, and even integrity. And the learner who embraces the emerging technology that allows these experiences to exist. And so to delight them, the modern learner, we need to create positive learning experiences that are convenient, yet reliable, innovative, certainly digital, and secure and stable. So with that, I'd like to turn the presentation over to my colleague, Mark Masacchio, who is one of my fellow colleagues from a company we worked at together before it was acquired by PSI, Software Secure. So Mark is going to talk about the outside-in approach and unpack all the elements that contribute to a standout proctoring experience. Take it away, Mark.
Thanks, Allison, and thanks everyone for joining us today for this presentation. Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. Good evening, even. This is Mark Masacchio, Senior Director of Sales for PSI Education. And I think the previous slide, the quote there from WCE really encapsulated kind of the general topic and an idea behind this presentation is that online proctoring, for all intents and purposes, can be a burden for the users, and that could be the students, that could be the instructors, school administrators. So what we've kind of endeavored to do here at PSI is to design a solution that can eliminate those friction points and minimize the burden, especially for the students. It's always important to keep the students at the heart of the conversation when talking about any type of technology introduction or implementation of a new product. So we've really taken some time and put careful thought into designing our new platform, which we'll talk about, called PSI Bridge, to make sure that it minimizes some of these friction points and provides a truly flexible, scalable, and easy-to-use product for your students. And what that really means is providing a solution that is fully integrated with learning management systems and simply embedded in your existing platform. So you don't have to go anywhere else to take an exam or be proctored. You can do it all within the same tools and platforms that the students are used to using day to day in their coursework. And providing multiple flexible options for proctoring features and modalities. But at the same time, relying on a consistent user experience for students, whether they're being proctored in a live proctoring scenario, an automated proctoring scenario, a recorded and reviewed proctoring scenario, so that it's going to work the same, look the same, and feel the same, so that there's no confusion of switching back and forth between different tools or products or modalities. And providing a way to get support easily and efficiently either before, during, or after testing time. So providing options like obviously phone support and chat support, knowledge-based articles, and ticketing portals, self-help options. Something we offer is practice exams. So test driving the system before you actually go to use it for a high-stakes exam. Because we all know that for exams that require proctoring, students can be quite anxious about it, and their nerves could be a little bit elevated. And we want to try to minimize that as much as we can, with the understanding that the students are already in a situation where they're nervous, they're anxious, they're worried about their grades and their testing. And of course, making sure that everything we do is compliant with data protection standards federally, locally, and from the individual institutions. So, there's no risk or potential harm that could come to students in terms of their security and data protection when using a proctoring tool. And then payment options, whether it's the students paying or the schools paying or splitting the fees, providing different options or avenues for payment using credit cards or online payment systems or portals like PayPal, or potentially utilizing financial aid money through vouchers or tokens that can be purchased potentially at your bookstore. So a lot of the thought and effort put into the design of our new platform is based on our experience providing online proctoring technology really longer than anyone in the marketplace, working with our internal and external experts in the market, so listening to you all to hear what we need to do, what we need to improve upon, either with our existing tools or with competitors' tools, to create that student-centered proctoring experience. So you're not hearing negative feedback. We're not hearing negative feedback from the students who are, again, kind of feeling the brunt of that burden, going back to that quote, when taking an online proctored exam. So to kind of break this down a little bit further, important to integrate with learning management systems to make the use of a proctoring tool as seamless as possible, right? Embedding the technology in the learning management system through integration models like LTI or using direct API integration to the learning management system, so that it looks and feels as though the proctoring system is a part of the LMS platform. Students are using the LMS for everything else, and we want to make sure that they're going to be able to simply go into their course in their LMS and access a proctoring tool and go off and schedule their exam or take an on-demand proctored exam seamlessly without much time and effort or steps involved outside of the learning. The same can be said for instructors and administrators, where you want that same user experience and enhanced experience by doing everything inside of the LMS as opposed to logging in to a separate portal or uploading manual data entry spreadsheets to be able to proctor your. In a multimodal approach, which is really the direction that the market is heading across the board for online proctoring and exam security. So what that means is providing flexibility for the instructor to design their tests how they want without changing their testing preferences due to the rigidness or inflexibility of the exam security or proctoring tool. And having different levels of options based on the stakes of the exam, perhaps. If you feel like a midterm or final are higher stakes, it might require more scrutiny. You might want to opt for a human-based proctoring model where lower stakes quizzes or assessments that are maybe ungraded even, you might want to use an automated proctoring model because it's a lower cost point and less invasive because there's not a human. So having multiple options both for the instructors to design their tests and set their preferences for exam security and exam rules, but also for the students to provide that array of options and flexibility. And then with scheduling, we all, I think, understand that students are not the most adept or certainly aren't experts at managing their schedules or their calendars, so providing a flexible scheduling option to allow them to pick a time that works for them, that works in their life and in their schedules, but also providing options for unscheduled or on-demand anytime testing. So depending on, again, your model of proctoring, whether it's live, real-time interactive proctoring, automated proctoring, record and review proctoring, you want to have really that flexibility to make sure that it has, again, minimal friction or minimal impact for the students in terms of their daily work or family and education or academic lives. And then along with scheduling comes rescheduling. So is it easy to reschedule your time because something else came up? You have to rush your kid to the emergency room, or you have to go on an unexpected work or business trip, and you have to reschedule your appointment. So having that flexibility is key to making sure that it's really seamless for students to be able to make sure that their exams are done on time and in a way that is convenient to them. And I mentioned this before already, but that consistent user experience is really important. And I think this really comes down to having the integration robust enough so that the technology is running in the background or on top of the learning management system, and there's not a whole lot of extra steps. And similarly, that if you have multiple proctoring modalities, again, live proctoring, record and review, automated, and different varieties or flavors, that they all look and feel the same. So if a student today has to take an exam that's automated and tomorrow it's live proctored, you don't want those experiences to be on different ends of the spectrum. You want them to be similar or identical so that the repetition makes it as easy as possible for the students to take a proctored exam regardless of that modality or proctoring preference. And then launch time. So this is probably one of the areas that we see the most friction, and I think based on some of your survey results, I think the top choice when you were asked what is the number one complaint, so to speak, from students about online proctoring, it's scheduling. And part of scheduling is, one, scheduling the appointment, two, showing up on time, and three, connecting to your proctor and getting to your exam. And that third part oftentimes can be the most frustrating. If you're on time to an appointment and picked noon Eastern time and you don't get into your exam until 12:45 or 1 p.m. because of proctoring companies being overbooked or having bottlenecks in the process that make you wait or delay the experience to get into the exam, that frustration building up over waiting 20, 30, 40 minutes is certainly going to take your focus away from what you're really there for, which is to complete an assessment. And building in options and features and technology and especially processes, make sure that you can minimize that launch time and get students into exams on time is really important to that overall end user experience. And again, support is becoming increasingly more important for organizations that are doing proctoring at scale or at large volumes. The same thing I mentioned about wait times or hold times with starting an exam is in reality as important or more important when it comes to support. If you are starting your test or halfway through your test and you experience a problem, the last thing you want to do is wait around for a technology expert or support technician to come in and troubleshoot and triage the issue. So having access to around-the-clock support that can be accessed quickly with minimal wait and hold times is critical. And that can be said also for students that are just having questions before an exam. You are scheduled or expecting to take a proctored exam later today and you have a few questions. Call support or chat support or log into the knowledge base or online support portal to get the help you need. This is also the same for faculty and administrators. Your job is important to make sure that you're setting up exams the right way, that you are providing the right exam rules or expectations for proctoring. You need help, and you might have questions. You need a client services or account management type of function available at all times to help you through problems, get training, talk about best practices, communicate issues or concerns that you might have to try to make the experience overall better for the students and for the instructors. And student data privacy, from my perspective, doing this for 9, almost 10 years now, is really starting to become, I think, number one on the list of factors that are coming up when we're talking to institutions who are beginning to implement online proctoring. And part of that is due to an increased focus or emphasis on information and data privacy globally with regulations like GDPR in Europe. And similarly in the United States, there are states in the country, California, which will probably be the first, who are enacting their own legislation modeled after GDPR that all companies or vendors will have to comply with, I think, by the end of 2020. So ensuring student data privacy is important to make sure that students are at ease and confident and comfortable using the technology, but also to limit the risk associated with tools or technology that collect PII, or personally identifiable information, or information protected under FERPA. And one of the ways we've really tackled this issue is by leveraging our internal experts in our compliance office. So we have a large group of compliance specialists who are experts in laws, regulations, and technology, make sure that we're in compliance with things like FERPA and GDPR and COPA and other things like that. But also making sure that our technology closes any potential loopholes or backdoors that could introduce risk of data privacy, either intentionally or unintentionally. And one of the ways we've done that is by eliminating the reliance on or the use of remote access technology that's used in the market in online proctoring that would allow a proctor to be able to remote into and access and control a student's computer to do things that can simply be done by using technology like a secure browser or lockdown browser. So we've been able to really look at the existing market, where the loopholes are, where can we close some of the gaps in terms of these things like data security to make sure that the experience for students is minimally invasive, eliminates some of the quote-unquote creepy factor, and provides the institution with a sense of safety and security that their students will not be impacted by or concerned about their own privacy or information data privacy. So flexible payment options can, of course, be a tremendous friction point for the end user, especially if the students are paying the fees either directly or indirectly for proctoring. So providing different models for payment, models for pricing, and licensing is important. So overall, PSI is extremely flexible with working with schools to determine what is the best model for payment or purchasing this type of technology. Is it the typical per exam, per student fee? Is it based on the length of the exam or duration? Can we come up with a flat fee per course or per year, or an enterprise license to cover a student's career at a school or in a program? And then for payment, can students use different options, credit cards, debit cards, things like PayPal, potentially down the road things like Venmo or other payment options? And we're also able to use other models of payment from students, like working with schools' bookstores to sell vouchers or tokens that students can buy or purchase using financial aid money they might have available at the bookstore. So a student could go into the bookstore or virtually go into the bookstore and buy their required textbooks and course materials, and also pick up 4 vouchers for the 2 proctored exams in each of the online courses they're taking this, and pay for that all using their bookstore account or financial aid money. So overall, what, again, we've been trying to do with designing online proctoring, exam security tools, as well as all the other tools that PSI has to offer, which includes things like test drivers, test delivery systems, item banking technology to help organizations or schools create an item bank for testing, test development tools and technology. We have kiosk proctoring models, and of course our network of over 1,500 professional test centers all have technology infrastructure built in place that are external facing. So end users like a student or a candidate or someone going for a certification or licensure exam will be exposed to several PSI interfaces, tools, or technologies at all stages of their career life cycle. And we've tried to take on this model of what we call one PSI approach, where we're building our technology to make sure that they're scalable, they're simple, they're easy to use, they meet accessibility requirements, and that they're consistent across the board to make sure that if you are taking an online proctored exam, a proctored exam in one of our test centers, if you're doing a certification test or licensure exam, or leveraging one of the thousands of proprietary assessments that PSI delivers, that you'll be doing so through a consistent, seamless, and user-friendly experience. So, removing those friction points, increasing flexibility and options, simplifying things, and then leveraging those development efforts across all of our tools and technology infrastructure options that we have, company-wide. And the end result is, again, student success, designing for delight tools, or leads to success through innovation, transformation of tools and technology. PSI has grown tremendously over the last several years, organically, but also through acquisition, and a large emphasis in acquisitions is making sure that once we acquire a company that has a technology that we're going to continue to use in the marketplace, that it meets all of those requirements and checks all of those boxes to make sure that we're always providing the highest quality technology in a consistent and transparent fashion. So PSI's approach to proctoring. We look at proctoring as much more than technology. It's really a blend or combination of people, process, and technology. So what that means is PSI as a large company in the market and really a very diverse company, we have internally hundreds of experts in a lot of different areas. That could be everything from technologists and product developers and engineers to psychometricians and IO psychologists who understand the science behind assessments, to proctors and in our test centers and proctors in our remote proctoring world. And across the board, we can leverage our internal expertise as well as leveraging our partner expertise. So the 600 plus schools that we work with, we want to know or hear from you what your experiences are, what you're hearing from your students or end users, and where you believe we could make improvements or enhancements to the technology. And in terms of process, we want to make sure that we're in sync with our customers, partners, and that we're also process-oriented in terms of delivering and developing a global infrastructure to be able to scale for expected and unexpected peaks or valleys in the usage of our technology. So as a global company with offices around the world, we have key offices for the education market in the U.S., Europe, and in the Middle East and Asia. So we have people and infrastructure and processes in place around the world to help balance our usage of resources and deploy people where they're going to be most valuable. And then obviously on the technology side, it's really designing, developing, partnering with technology service and solution providers to make sure that we can meet the demands of the market. We can adjust quickly and in an agile way, make sure that our products are meeting the requirements that we're hearing from the market and from folks like you out there who are using or evaluating or expecting to need online proctoring or exam security solutions in the future. So that brings us to an introduction to the PSI Bridge platform. So the Bridge platform is really an endeavor that started a few years ago to build a unified or consolidated proctoring platform from a company that already had multiple online proctoring tools that we sold and offered to the marketplace. So PSI has this multimodal approach that includes test center proctoring, that includes remote proctoring of different modalities and varieties, as well as what we call kiosk proctoring. And we endeavor to build this bridge platform to kind of bring a best-of-breed approach into a unified solution that can be offered to and leveraged by all of our key markets, which are education, certification, licensure, talent measurement, and a lot of work in our federal and government division as well, so that we're not selling point solutions to each of those divisions. We'll now have one unified platform that can be distributed and leveraged across the enterprise. So it includes today live remote proctoring, so a proctor watching a student take a test in real time with the ability to monitor and flag behaviors as well as intervene and correct behaviors. A record and review modality, which has a lot of different features and functionality. Essentially, it's a student taking a test on their own while being recorded for review after the fact by a professionally trained and certified human proctor. And then the third option is what we call kiosk proctoring, which is essentially a one-person test center, if you think about maybe an ATM machine or a photo booth. Someone could walk in, sit down at the machine, and be proctored in real time by a remote proctor at a specific location or specific designation. And built into all of this, we're beginning to layer in advanced technology like AI and machine learning, as well as biometric capabilities for identity verification. And we're obviously going to be enhancing and increasing the options built into the Bridge platform as time goes on. So the Bridge platform, again, is a culmination of work done by PSI over the last few years. Take the disparate technologies that we've had in place or have acquired over the last several years, the expertise from our internal team and from our market partnerships and client base to build this platform so that it meets the modern demands of the modern learner. So for proctoring multimodal, to have a process in place and technology and services in place to ensure a fast check-in and a fast launch time, and to provide that consistent user experience across all modalities. So to the student user, if they're record and review proctored, automated proctored, or live real-time proctored, the technology looks, feels, functions, and acts exactly the same. And it's almost transparent to them what type of proctoring model that they're actually using. For identity verification, to make sure that we are ensuring student data privacy, of course, across the board, especially when we're thinking about looking at photographing or storing pictures of students' ID cards, a driver's license, passport, for example, or a school ID card, and introducing facial recognition technology, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a few moments, that can be done on handheld and mobile devices like your smartphones or tablets. Enterprise support for faculty and students and administrators with training options that are available on demand or scheduled live or in person. We tend to do a lot of custom training programs to make sure that we are meeting the needs of each individual school. It is not a one-size-fits-all model to make sure that we are really listening to your needs and your questions and providing the right level of service and the right tools and technology and best practices to support your implementation or your continued use of our technology. And of course, data privacy. We talked about it a lot already, but making sure that everything we do is done in a way to ensure student data privacy, protection of personally identifiable information, anything that would be regulated by or found under FERPA protection or GDPR protection or any other state, local, or federal government data security standard. And then integration with learning management systems and really any other online testing platform can be done simply and efficiently through models like LTI and using as much automation and APIs and web services as possible to make sure your user experience is simple. We hope to and whenever we can want to automate processes for instructors and for students by leveraging technology to transfer, pass, or share information between learning tools and learning management systems. And one of the best and most scalable and seamless ways to do that is through LTI. So you can create almost a truly plug-and-play model where a learning management system administrator should be able to implement and deploy our technology in any learning management system in, let's say, under 30 minutes, but potentially even under 5 or 10 minutes. So we work with all the major LMS platforms, or I guess I could say any testing system or learning management system that is LTI compliant. We work with a lot of open source and third-party options like edX, for example. And built into our integration, again through LTI, is the ability to extend that experience to systems outside of the learning management system. So textbook publisher systems like Pearson products or McGraw-Hill or Cengage products. You can, through the LMS system integration, manage and complete proctoring through any of those third-party tools without having to actually do anything in the My Labs or the McGraw-Hill Connect platform for proctoring. It's all done seamlessly through the integration with your learning management. So we want to take a minute just to, I guess as an example, show a quick video demo of some of the kind of innovative things we've been working on. And this is a student identity or authentication technology that will leverage things like smartphones or tablets or handheld devices that have cameras on them. So this is going to be available down the road as part of the proctoring platform PSI Bridge, but also as a standalone option for verifying student identity during times outside of a proctored assessment. And this can also be extended to before students enrolled while they're applying to school. So are you the person that applied or accepted, enrolled in our courses and programs, and then continually did work throughout your time at the school? So I will play this quick little video. It's right there. It is. So this is the mobile app experience. So you get an SMS text with a link. Take a picture of your ID card, front and back. So what the technology does is it creates a face map of the selfie and of the face in the picture on the ID, but also is able to verify that that credential, the ID card, driver's license, passport, or potentially even school IDs are real or valid. Right? Is that a real Massachusetts driver's license? Is it a real University of X ID card? So it's basically picture of your ID, selfie, face match, and then is the ID card real or valid? So you can see 98.32% verification match. The ID is real, it's not expired, and it's a valid ID card. So again, that was just a quick video of the experience of using one of our new features that will be coming out soon that will enhance the student-centered user experience to make authentication that much easier to use the technology and tools that students have, or most students have, sitting in their pockets. So just a quick summary, and we certainly want to leave time for the Q&A, but again, the PSI Bridge platform was really designed with the students at heart to make sure that we can create that seamless, scalable solution that's easy to consistent across the board for all proctoring modalities, but also making sure that it goes above and beyond in ensuring integrity and honesty in your exam experience. And this is a great quote from one of our longtime customers at Vanderbilt University, who we've been working with for a long time. That goes to show that we treat our customers as a much more than a customer. It's really a partnership, and it's mutually beneficial, we hope, so that we can get a lot back from you in terms of your feedback, your experience, your overall partnership, and hopefully provide a great and valuable and affordable service to help you meet your needs as an institution when it comes to ensuring academic integrity and meeting accreditation requirements. So this is just a sample list, again, of some of our customers. You can get a much larger list, I think, from our website. We'd love to talk to you more about individual clients and use cases or case studies, but I think now is a great time to open it up to Q&A.
Thank you, Mark, and thanks, Allison. You've given listeners a lot to think about. I just want to remind everybody that if you haven't already, if you do have any questions for the presenters, please go ahead and use that Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. If we're not able to get to everybody's questions, I believe somebody from PSI will follow up with you directly after this event, so do feel free to post your questions. We had somebody ask about just proctoring policies in general. Do these tend to vary from institution, and what are you seeing in terms of policy? And then I would add to that, like, do you have any recommendations for leaders at institutions on what types of policies they should be creating around these?
Yeah, I can address that. That's a great question. And the answer is there's a lot of different policies that schools gravitate towards or adopt. So there, and within policies, there's a lot of different categories, right? So some schools have a policy that you can only require proctoring on X number of exams per course, 1 or 2 or 3. Some say you can use it for any assessment, high, medium, or low stakes. Some schools have policies on what type of proctoring they require for, again, a midterm versus a final. And then even within universities, it might be, the School of Nursing has to do all, one kind of proctoring, but other departments or colleges within the university are more flexible to use what they prefer. So there's, in terms of policy, each school is very different. We certainly have a lot of case studies we can refer to when talking to schools about or being questioned about, what should our policy be about X. We can say, well, here are a few examples of schools who have done it in slightly different or very different ways. Let's talk about what that means for you. What is your ultimate goal, or what are you looking to achieve with proctoring? And figure out together what would be the best steps moving forward, or policy to model after for your implementation of a proctoring tool.
Oh, thanks. Makes sense. Mark, you mentioned that the platform, you're really cognizant about not being invasive and not taking control of a student's computer. So how does the PSI platform prevent students from looking up answers online during a test?
Yeah, great question. So part of the kind of core of the PSI Bridge platform is the PSI Secure Browser. So it's a lockdown browser technology that's used across all proctoring modalities, again, leading to that consistent user experience, which will be able to provide exam security on a customized basis. So lockdown browsers can, during testing time, block other programs from opening or shut other programs down that someone could use to cheat. And an example of that is a web browser. So if you don't want students looking up information online or going to Wikipedia or doing a Google search, the lockdown browser will not allow other browsers to open, like Firefox or Chrome or Safari or any others, preventing them from doing a web search or online search. Now, at the same time, because we created this system to be flexible and create a lot of options, you can say, we do want to allow other browsers to be accessed during a specific test. And if so, is it truly open book? You can go visit any website in the world, or are there certain websites or URLs that you want to allow or permit access to during the test? So you might say, during the test, students can open another browser. So our lockdown browser for that test will allow other web browsers to open, but we only want them to go to psionline.com and espn.com. And for that reason, you'll be able to really create your exam rules exactly the way you want without having to change your preferred model of delivering an exam because the technology wasn't flexible enough, or it was too rigid to say you either can or can't do this or that, and there was no middle ground. So that's how we're able to make sure that students cannot just simply go Google search, but if you want that type of flexibility, you can certainly allow students to Google search just by using our exam rule creation dashboard and say, allow browsers and allow these specific websites.
Okay, thanks. We've had a couple of questions about the human proctors, so I'll kind of ask this in a multiple-part question.
Okay.
What are the qualifications of the staff that you have doing the proctoring? Do students see the proctors while they're taking a test? And somebody asked, have you ever had issues with the language barrier with proctors?
Yeah, all good questions. So the qualification of our proctors are they're all generally they have a higher degree of education, so beyond a kind of K-12 education. They have tested for high levels of competency in things like customer-centric or customer service skills and technical skills, so they're all very tech-savvy. And the reality is as a company, PSI, as some may or may not know, is one of the global leaders in pre-employment assessment and talent measurement. Companies hire PSI to design assessments that are specific to finding people with specific skills for specific jobs. And we use those same practices and principles when hiring our own staff, from proctors to tech support agents to salespeople and marketing people and executives. So we've tested and assessed all of our new hires for proctors in all positions to make sure that they meet our level of skills and competencies that we understand and know are important and required for handling a job of online or a in-person proctor. So they all go through a rigorous 6-week training program, and that culminates in a certification exam. I'm sure you wouldn't be surprised to know that that certification exam is proctored. And so do the students see the proctors? So the answer to that is no. So the students will be able to communicate with the proctors, but they will communicate only through text chat. So it's not voice, it's not phone or voice over IP. And that's done very intentionally. And part of the reason is potential language barriers. Right? We want to make sure that students in the U.S., students in the Middle East, students in Asia Pacific and Australia and all over the world will be able to communicate seamlessly with their proctor, and we'll be able to eliminate the potential for bias or language barriers by relying on the chat text communication proctor to student proctor. So we found that to be very helpful and successful in making sure that experience, again, going back to the whole user experience conversation, is as seamless and simple as possible, because we don't want students saying, say that again, can you repeat that? Can you please repeat that again? Couldn't hear you, or I couldn't understand you. So that's really one of the main reasons why we've relied on text chat communication. Okay.
I think we have time for maybe one more question, but as I said, if you did not hear your question being asked, somebody from PSI will follow up with you directly. And we did have a few questions about costs, and I'll let, I'm sure, again, somebody from PSI will follow up with those questions as well. We had somebody ask, and you mentioned, Mark, that PSI's background in human capital and hiring is sort of a strength or a differentiator when it comes to the human proctors that you use. Given that there are other proctoring companies out there, how would you articulate what makes PSI sort of the best option?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, and could be one that could use a much longer answer than the time we have remaining, but I'll try to summarize it. Again, PSI is I would say, the originator of online proctoring. So we've been in the market and experiencing the changes and evolution of the market for 15 plus years now. So we've seen it grow from one vendor to now probably a dozen plus vendors, and seen successes and failures along the way internally and externally. So on the technology and service side, I think we are well beyond a lot of the other options out there in terms of just understanding the market, but also as a company that is very heavily invested in the human capital piece, and having a network of 1,500 test centers, which all have test center administrators, proctors, accessibility specialists, and so on. We understand a proctoring assessment delivery, I think, better than anyone who also does online proctoring. Right? There are differences between in-person test center proctoring and online proctoring, to be sure, but having that experience and background, I think, just propels us beyond what other companies understand about the market, and also about the psychology and science behind assessment and exam security, and everything that's kind of wrapped around that.
Great. Thank you so much. If anybody did not submit a question through the Q&A box, I would encourage you, if you do have any other questions, please go ahead and reach out to PSI directly using the contact information in this final slide, hello@psionline.com or psionline.com, the website. I'd like to thank our speakers today, Allison Sands and Mark Masacchio, for a very informative presentation. I'd like to thank all of the audience members as well for joining us today. Hopefully you gained some good insight that will help you rethink how you administer online exams to put users at the center of the experience. As a reminder, you'll get an email within the next few days that contains a link to this recording along with the slides. And if you haven't already done so, please also take a minute to download the additional resource that PSI has made available in the left-hand side of your screen. So thanks again, everybody, for participating, and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.